It's Wolf, and I'm back with a stream. It's been a while since I did a stream. Um, let me. Oh God. Uh, let me make sure all of my stream stuff is set up correctly. And also, I want to check when was the last time I did a stream because it feels like it's been a while. Um, yeah, 2 weeks ago, 13 days ago was when I did the second Wiki Gotcha stream. So that's been a while. But I have really good news. So assuming my also that my internet connection cooperates, that's acting a little funky. Um, so I am finally done with my job. That's the good news. I've been talking about it a little bit. I had mentioned it on some previous streams that I was looking for a new job and that like I had actually gotten an interview for a new job. And then I think on the last stream I did, I mentioned that I had actually gotten the new job, but that I still had to put in a 2 weeks notice and everything. Well, today finally all done with my old job. So yeah, today was the last day I was working there. I've got like 2 weeks now until I start my new job, so I'm gonna have some time to just hang out and stuff, and hopefully work on some things. And I figured I would do a stream tonight because over the past like 2.5 years that I've been working at my old job, I've always been very obscure about my job and like what exactly it was and stuff because I'm a little bit weird about privacy. Which reminds me, also, I gotta tell you guys the doxing story in full at some point soon too, because that finally has resolved itself as well. I think. Um, anyway, let me go ahead and hop into Black Ops 2 Zombies. I am actually playing on Xbox 360 for once because just because well, I really haven't played it on 360 that much. And 360 is just easiest to record compared to like PS3. I could have hooked up my computer, but I just figured this was what I had set up. I already had my 360 out and everything, and I don't think I've ever streamed it on 360. Plus, to add to that, I should mention, I think that this now means I've streamed Black Ops 2 Zombies on every platform it came out on, because I've done PS3, I've done PC, I've done Wii U, I think. I know I have it on Wii U, and now here is Xbox 360. But yeah, so now that I'm done, also apologies if I sound a little off tonight. I don't think I've been sick, but I was feeling kind of weird yesterday, which is a story I'll probably get to in a minute. Oh wow, this feels really weird because it's almost like running smoother than it did on PS3. I listen, PS3 of PS3 and 360, PS3 is my preferred console, but I can't help but realize that a lot of games didn't run that good on PS3. So anyway, yeah, but yeah, my job, I'm all done with that now. And so to start with, let me tell you guys about what the job was. So I've been really obscure about it, but I was doing retail. It might have been pretty obvious from some of the stuff I talked about, but I think I kept it pretty secretive. And it feels so weird after all this time to finally be able to talk about this stuff more openly, without like having to worry about like my job or whatever. But so if you guys have heard of Second and Charles before, or if not, you can just look it up. I wasn't working at a Second and Charles, but this is like the easiest way for me to explain where I was working. Because like I'm still not gonna say exactly where I was working, but it was a store very similar to a Second and Charles, like a giant store sold video games and music and movies, and I don't know if Second and Charles sells books, but the place I was working sold books. So very similar to that kind of store, but like a smaller brand, kind of a mid-size family-owned business. Um, and that's where I was working. So for the past 2.5 years, most of my job was putting away books and movies and alphabetizing that stuff and putting it on the shelves and that kind of thing. And I also knew how to like run a cash register, did that a little bit, and worked on the trade counter a little bit. Didn't really ever evaluate anything, but anyway, that's beside the point. So yeah, that's where I was working. Was a place was pretty much a giant used media store. So that's done with now, which was kind of, it was a little bit bittersweet, but I was definitely glad to be done with that job for a handful of reasons. Most recently, if you guys watched the videos about the ice storm that came through, you will know the whole story about how I damaged my car, I got sent to the emergency room, etc., trying to get to work, and then still got written up for like not having enough hours to cover the time that I missed, which really frustrated me. So that was like, I already had been looking at jobs on and off over the past few years, but that really kind of made me more seriously look for new jobs recently, and yeah, I found one. So yeah, but there was a lot of things that I liked about that job, a lot of things that I disliked about that job. Um, in terms of the negatives, so alongside the whole thing with what I was saying about the ice storm stuff that happened recently, they were always really weird about enforcing some policies but not others. I think I said it before, but the only things that I ever saw people get fired for were being late slash missing days or stealing things, which I always found to be kind of strange because there were some people who just didn't really do anything at work, or would like slack off a lot, and they wouldn't really get in trouble as long as they were there. Um, so anyway, that was kind of negative. I also, something that really frustrated me when I first started working there was it took me forever to get onto the company insurance plan because they hired me as a seasonal employee first, and then they moved me to part-time, and then yeah, I had to, for to be on the company's insurance plan, you had to be working at least 30 hours a week. So I had been working 20 hours a week when I first started there, and then I moved up to 30. And I remember being frustrated though because I was at 30 for like 4 or 5 months or something, and then eventually I finally asked like the office manager guy. I was like, "Hey, when am I going to be able to get on the insurance?" And they were like, "Oh, we didn't move you to full time because we thought you were only going to do those hours temporarily." And I was like, "What do you mean? I've literally been doing it like 5 months." So then like they finally moved me full time, and then I still had to wait like another month or something. So it took, like I said, just a silly amount of time to get onto that company insurance plan. And honestly, it felt like one of the things that annoyed me about that job was it felt very slow with a lot of progression things in some ways. Um, like the entire time I worked there, I never really got trained on anything new. And I also felt a little frustrated because there were people who got hired after me that they started to train on new stuff. And I mean, maybe it was because those people were working more hours. They were working like a full 40 hours, and I was only working the 30 hours a week just because that's what worked best for me. But it's still kind of annoying when you see somebody who's been there not as long as you, who ends up like getting trained on all sorts of new stuff and like doing things that could get them a raise and stuff, and you weren't even asked about it. And another thing too is I kind of questioned their hiring process sometimes. Something that annoyed me recently was they hired a new like sort of administrative person, and I don't think that that person necessarily did anything wrong, but they never posted the job for anybody within the company already to apply for it. And I was like, okay, so where did you get this new random person? So it just felt like the progression there was kind of slow or non-existent, both in terms of like the actual job title type stuff and also the like insurance and just everything. There was also only like 3 levels of job there. There was pretty much just like the base level, just employee. There was one level above that, which was like section directors, so people who were in charge of like specific areas of the store, like somebody in charge of the movies, somebody in charge of this genre of book, that kind of thing. And then the managers. And so all the managers had been there for a pretty long time for the most part, and all the directors had been there for like even longer actually. Um, so it was like, so I kind of couldn't help but feel like, okay, there's literally no progression here until somebody retires, which all the directors, even though they'd been there for like 15 years, they were all like 45 at the oldest. So it's like, I don't want to wait 20 years to be able to get a promotion. Um, so that was just a couple of things that frustrated me. And as time goes on, I'll have more stories about this job to tell. But in terms of the good things, I mean, it was very easy to get in contact with pretty much everybody at every level of the store. Like it was really easy to get in contact with the management. It was really easy to get in touch with like the administrations of the administrator level people there. Like I literally have a sheet that has the cell phone number of the CEO on it and stuff. So things like that. Which, by the way, I should mention though, the administration end of that business kind of did some really weird decisions in the past few years too, which made me kind of question how good things would be in the long run there. Pretty much, since there is more than one location for that brand, they ended up doing some really weird stuff at another store, and I'm not going to say exactly what it was because it's like a kind of very local thing. Um, and I don't want to name where exactly I was working, but yeah, there was another location that they just kind of were making a bunch of strange decisions that I didn't understand, and that kind of gave bad vibes. But in general, it was really easy to get in touch with like management and stuff, and like sometimes they would listen to stuff. For a lot of smaller stuff, they were usually pretty chill. But even bigger stuff, they would at least pretend to listen, which is kind of nice, especially having worked in a kitchen before where nobody really listened to anybody like below management. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of nice. So the biggest thing that I really enjoyed about this job was that there was a very very good discount. So if you guys have watched my streams or anything over the past few years as I've been working there, you probably have heard me talk about the discount before. But I've never actually explained what exactly it was because it said like in the employee handbook to not discuss the discount or not like it's not tell people what exactly the discount was. But since I don't work there anymore, I don't really have to care about that. And I don't know if they specifically like didn't want you telling people what exactly the discount was. But it was pretty clear in like the employee manual that I don't think they wanted you like running around telling everybody it. But pretty much the employee discount there was not a normal like percentage, but it was that you paid whatever the store paid for an item, which for a store that sells like video games and things like that is actually kind of incredible. So a lot of the times, the store like whatever price we were gonna put on an item, we would pay between a fifth and a half of that to the person selling it to us. So oftentimes it ended up being around a third. So that meant that I was able to get a ton of stuff for like 66% off, which is an unheard of discount. I've never seen any other business that gives employees a discount like that. Um, so if you're wondering about all the stories I've told over the past few years about being able to get games and consoles and computers and equipment and all sorts of stuff for quote really cheap, that's what I mean. A lot of the times it was about a third of what I would have normally paid, and the prices in the store were usually pretty similar to like what you would see online and stuff. So that is one of the things. The other thing too that was it was kind of a blessing and a curse was it was 10-hour shifts. So on the one hand, actually working for 10 hours straight really sucks, especially because the building that we were working in was like really dusty and stuff. But it also means that you work like less days. So even if I had been working 40 hours a week, I still would have had 3 days off. As it was with working 3 days a week, I had 4 days off, and even though like it wasn't as much money as if I had been working 40 hours a week, it just worked better for me. Um, I really don't think I could have done 40 hours a week at that job. I did it a few times, like covered like somebody else's shift or whatever to get some extra money. And yeah, I always felt really, really bad afterwards because, oh, dang it. Just because of like the way that story is. Like you know, as the last couple of days of work were going on, and like I was saying like bye to my coworkers that like I wasn't going to see on another shift and stuff. At first I was really kind of pretty sad about it, but like by the end of my shift today, I was like, yeah, like I'm very quickly remembering why I needed to get out of this environment, because it's not like it was like a mentally bad environment, but physically, man, I just never felt that good after my shifts. Like even today, like I don't know, it's weird, but I think the fact that at that job I was constantly moving around, I think it really irritated my stomach almost somehow. So I was always just really like stomach wise uncomfortable during most of my shifts. Um, but yeah, and really it wasn't that bad when I first started, because like when I started working there, I was working 20 hours a week, so it was two 5-hour shifts and one 10-hour shift, and that was actually pretty chill. But then like I needed to get my own insurance, so I had to start working more. And yeah, that was how that all pretty much ended up working out. Hang on, I gotta change some stuff around here on the computer, and also my microphone's in a weird spot. I don't want to upgrade to Mac OS Tahoe right now. Oh, here's something interesting. I just remembered that I have some other tabs open on my computer. Underscores had an album come out a couple days ago, and I noticed it's kind of interesting. She wrote, like, in the descriptions, it's written where the songs were written and recorded, and man, some of them it's crazy. So, um, what is it? Music. The song Music, which got pretty popular because it was like a song that came out before the actual album, written and recorded in Chicago, Illinois, Oslo, Norway, Copenhagen, Denmark, Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Cologne, I think Germany, and Glasgow, Great Britain, which is Scotland. I've actually been to Glasgow before. Glasgow's pretty cool. I only spent a little bit of time there, but I'd like to visit that again sometime. Anyway, that's a crazy globe-trotting adventure for that song. But it is a very good song if you haven't heard it. I actually haven't really been on the internet that much. I've been really busy the past like 2 weeks. Even though I've been in kind of a lame duck period at my job because I have the new job lined up and everything. It was just I was really busy with that and trying to kind of get stuff done and everything. Sorry if you guys heard that sip. The Faygo in the title of this stream is not a lie. The Faygo, the pizza and Faygo and work stories. And I have some work stories to tell you guys. I've been thinking about it over the past like 2 weeks. I actually even wrote down some of these stories that way I wouldn't forget them. Um, but yeah, I was like, how am I going to celebrate my last day of work? And I was like, you know what? I want to do the classic. I want to play some Call of Duty or like something else. And I want to get some pizza and I want to get some soda. And so Faygo, because I like Faygo. Got Little Caesars, because, I like Little Caesars a lot. I know people always talk crap about Little Caesars. I think that people who talk crap about Little Caesars, they just assume it's bad because it's cheap. It is not bad because it's cheap, okay? Little Caesars is one of my favorite pizza restaurants. Um, but anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. I had a couple tangents there. Um, well, in terms of sodas, I wanted to tell you guys about a cool soda that I found out about recently. I mentioned Faygo a lot on the stream, but I mean, Faygo is a pretty well-known brand, especially like Insane Clown Posse. They have been like talking about Faygo forever. But I found this new soda recently called Ski, and I wandered across it at a store that I bought some 12 like a couple 12 packs of Faygo at. And it's by a smaller company called Double Cola, which I don't think I had ever heard of before. And it's a citrus soda. It's kind of similar to like a Mountain Dew type of flavor. I read online, I think like the Wikipedia page compared it to Sundrop or Squirt. And it does taste a little bit more like those than it does Mountain Dew because those have a little bit of a different taste. I'd say it's similar to Mountain Dew, but like with a maybe stronger orange flavor. I think it's orange and lemon again with the ballistic knives. Um, did I get ballistic knife? No, not twice in a row because I got the Chicom. Um, but it's good. I really like it, and also it at least says on the can that it has real orange and lemon juice in it, which is kind of a nice change from like chemicals in like every other soda. But I am really not getting anything good from the box right now. But yeah, that was one thing I wanted to mention. So also apologies, as I said, if I sound a little bit off tonight. Man, yesterday I did not feel good whatsoever. I don't know what the heck happened yesterday. I'm feeling pretty much fine now. I think I got a sandwich from a gas station yesterday, which I know is a great start to a story. But let me preface that by saying that it was not like a random gas station sandwich. It was at a gas station that is like known for having food and stuff, and I got a sandwich from there, and it just did not agree with me. I actually like not to get gross or over descriptive here, but I ate it, and I remember thinking it was kind of like really greasy, but I didn't really care because like gas station sandwich, of course, is gonna be greasy. But a couple hours later, my stomach was super upset, and I actually a weird thing about me is that I almost never throw up. I actually did the math in my mind earlier, and I think it's been 17 years since I threw up last. uh, which I know kind of sounds like a brag, but in some ways it's kind of a bad thing sometimes. But anyway, I don't really tend to throw up very much. I don't really tend to get nauseous very often. But whatever that sandwich did, I almost felt like that was the closest I felt to throwing up in a long, long time, and I didn't throw up, luckily. But yeah, I got really close, and so I don't know for sure if it was the sandwich or if like I had a stomach bug going on or what. But my stomach was doing horrible yesterday, and today it still has been off a little bit. Um, and I've noticed my nose is kind of a little weird, but sometimes that happens like when my stomach gets screwed up because acid reflux or something. I don't know. I think it's also because of work. Big dusty building, as I've complained about a ton of times. But yeah, so if I sound a little nasally, that's why. I don't think I'm sick, but I think it was like possibly food poisoning or something, um, which sucks because I really liked that gas station's food, but now I'm kind of scared to have it again. At least I'll just stay away from the sandwiches, maybe. The hot dogs and stuff, they're pretty good. Um, yeah, so work stories, though. Let me finally get on to some of those, because I had mentioned that in the actual title of the stream. So, let me clear out some of these zombies and hope that we don't die. This might be bad. Okay, that was a perfectly timed nuke. Um, and let me whip out the list of work stories because I have like 10 of them written down, and that's not even all of them. I guarantee you guys, as the future goes on and I do streams and stuff, I'm going to continue to have more and more stories to tell you from this. Oh, dang it! That was my little emulation console. It's fine, I think. Okay. Yeah, sure, that'll go there for now. Here we are. I actually don't have as many things written on here as I thought, but okay. So the first one that came to mind when I was thinking about work stories from this job, uh, okay, yes, stream is still good. So I just have it written down. So okay, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Well, okay, I do, but it's a crazy story. It was one of those just interactions like working retail. You always run into just insane. You run into insane people and stupid people a lot. So anyway, this one lady comes in, and I'm not trying to be mean to her and call her like insane or stupid because I think she actually had something like kind of going on in her head. But so the one day I happened to be on the register for whatever reason, which is a little weird because I wasn't usually on the register. But I'm on the register, and this kind of strange looking lady comes up. She's like older. She looks kind of scruffy. She's got this like crumpled up Aldi bag, and she's buying like a ton of plushies because for some ungodly reason this store, alongside all of the used media stuff, yes, literally sold used plushies and used toys and stuff, which I thought was really strange. That was another reason why I kind of wanted to get out of that job, was because I felt sort of morally opposed to selling strange previously owned plushies to like children. But anyway, this lady comes up and she's buying all these plushies, and she's just kind of acting odd. She's talking a lot about kind of like nonsense, and she also like didn't really seem to understand why I was giving her change back. I don't even remember how much it rung up to, but it was like her if her purchase was like $50, she handed me like $100 bill, so give her $50 back. And she was like, "Wait, why are you giving me change?" And I was like, "Cause you paid me $100 and it was only $50." Um, so, but eventually she starts talking. She starts rambling about her mom, and she says that her mom had died, which was more information than I needed. But as many other retail employees can probably tell you, that's a pretty common thing for people to just say insane things to you. So pretty much she starts talking about how her mom had died and stuff, and like, I felt bad, I get it, like, I have a parent who passed away, my dad passed away, it sucks, it makes you feel really awful, but at the same point, I don't go to random cashiers and tell them how sad I am that my dad died. So anyway, this lady was going on about that, but eventually she finally left. Well, that is not where the story ends. About, like, a week or two later, I was putting away movies, and I'm in the horror section, and I'm putting movies away in the horror section, and she comes over, and she comes, I don't know if she recognized me or not, or if she was just kind of saying things out loud. At this point, the store, we had actually rearranged the store at one point when I was working there, but at this point in time, the store had like the horror section. It was almost like a little cubby, so you could very easily get kind of trapped in there. So me, I'm putting stuff away, and there's like two people shopping in there, and she comes up and just kind of looks around at the movies, and then totally unprompted says like, yeah, none of these movies scare me. The scariest thing that happened to me was when my mom died. And I was like, bro. And so nobody really said anything to her. Everybody just kind of ignored her. um, and then she just sort of waddled away, and I don't think I ever interacted with her again. I think she showed up a few more times at the store when I was there, but I never really saw her again or anything. But yeah, that was just, it was one of the most unhinged things that I think I've ever heard anybody say just out loud, unprompted in a crowd of people. Yeah, so that's story number one. What do I have written down here next? Guy who couldn't spell his own name. Yes, this is another strange customer one. So, again, I was on cashier the one day for whatever reason, and this guy came up, and I couldn't tell what his issue was. I think he might have been on drugs or possibly drunk. I think drunk makes the most sense now that I look back at it, because it didn't really seem like drugs. I think he was just drunk. And pretty much the store had a return policy where you could return items, no questions asked, but you could only do it like a certain number of times per year. I already have forgotten how many times per year it was. And so he was like, kind of like, as drunk people do, just kind of talking, but not really making any sense. And at one point, he tries to ask me, hey, can you check how many returns that I have left? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll try. Do you have your ID? Because that's how they tracked the returns, was by IDs. You had to give your ID whenever you wanted to make a return, and then that got saved in the system so it could keep track of how many returns you had made. So he doesn't have his ID with him, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if I can check. So he's like, well, you check by my name, and I was like, yeah, sure, like I'll try to check by your name. So he tells me his name, and he like doesn't spell it or anything, but he just says what it is, and I'm like, okay. So I search for his name, he doesn't show up, and then he was kind of persistent about it for a little while, about trying to get me to check. And eventually, I just remember he like couldn't spell his own name, and at one point, I don't remember what his name was, but if it was like Jeff, for example, it was like, yeah, it's like Jeff, not Jeff, and I was like, okay, like he didn't actually give me like any letters though, so that was a weird one. He was not as problematic as some of the other customers that had shown up though. I mean, he was just kind of taking up space, which it is incredible how many people on this planet seem to just exist to go into a store and stare at a wall for 20 minutes, or to stand in a line and hold up the entire line for as long as possible. But anyway, so that was another story. Let me see what I have written next on the notepad of work stories. Oh god, yeah, I have in quotes, well, that's some customer service. So this one was one that I wasn't really involved in, but I actually have 3 similar stories that are all kind of short that I'll probably just tell right now. So there was this one time, when I was working on our trading counter, and which meant that I got to deal with the especially irate customers, because when you tell somebody that all 20 of the books they brought in are worth $2, they get a little angry sometimes. But anyway, so we had limits on how much stuff people could bring in. This store that I was working at took in way more items than other similar stores, like multiple thousands of items a day coming to the store. So we had to, like, they have a limit on how much stuff people can bring in, because if they didn't, some people literally just have endless supplies of things. There were a few people that I remember when, like, I would ring them up at the trade counter. They would have like notes on their thing that popped up when I scanned their ID that would literally say they were limited to however many things to trade in, because if they were not limited, they would just be there all day trading things in. And I still don't understand how some people could even manage that. But anyway, so uh, yeah, so limited on how many things can be traded in. Also, there was a time limit on when you could come back to claim both your money and items that we rejected. And so I don't remember exactly what the issue was, but there was somebody that was angry about like I think it was like both the item limit and the time limit. And pretty much they wanted to trade some stuff in, but they wanted to come back like way later in the day to get their rejected items. And I don't even think I was involved in this one. I think it was one that I overheard, but whoever was helping them kind of told them, no, we can't hold it for more than like this long. And they were like, well, can I talk to a manager about it or whatever? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they got the manager, and the manager, reiterates the same thing. We can't hold rejected items for any extra time for anybody, or else it'll just take up space and it'll slow down the whole process. And I just remember the person that was trying to trade stuff in got like really irate and like really angry, which was weird because I think he had like his wife and kid with him too. And I just remember he was like, "Well, that's some customer service. That's some customer service, huh?" Um, and then yeah, left. But it's like I don't get why people got so angry about that kind of thing. But anyway, so that was story number one along those lines. And then what was the other one? Let me think. Oh, so printouts. We used to, when I first started working there, for a pretty short period of time when I first started working there, people who traded stuff in could get a printout of like an itemized list of every item they traded in and exactly how much money we would give them for it or gave them for it for either cash or trade credit because it was different values for each, like at most places. And so a lot of people did do that, especially the people who would come in and like sell a ton of stuff. Which no big deal. It only took like a second. But anyway, shortly after I started working there, they ended up doing away with that. They made it so you could no longer get a printout like that. And I just remember, I remember, uh, this one guy got he came back in to claim his ticket for trading stuff. Um, and he wanted the printout, and I said, "Oh, sorry, we don't do the printouts anymore. We just stopped doing them." And pretty much he didn't want to take that for an answer. He was like, "Well, your website says that you do printouts," and I was like, "Does it? Because they just told us that we don't do printouts anymore." So anyway, he was like, "Well, can I talk to a manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So once again, I think one of my family members just got home. Once again, got to pull the manager aside. Manager says the same exact thing as I do, and it was funny too because manager, like, I remember the manager that got talking to this customer was kind of like, well, it's my store, and I said no printouts. So um yeah, I remember. I just remember that was really funny. And then if I remember right too, the dude had the gall. I think it was the same guy. Dude had the gall afterwards to be like, "Oh, so you're new here, huh?" And I was like, "Not really. I've been here for like a couple months now, actually." As if like I didn't know what I was talking about. But hang on, I'm gonna pause the stream really quickly because I want to go get some water and stuff, and also say hello to the family member who just got back. Okay, I'm back. Let me put the gameplay back up. Swap back over to that screen. Um, Gosh, yeah, I got some mail that I got to tell you guys about too. But anyway, and then so the last story that I was in the midst of telling in terms of like the whole that's customer service thing. There was another time where somebody did a return and pretty much like if you paid for something with trade credit, you would get trade credit back. Even if you only paid like partially with trade credit or whatever, it was that was how it worked. And sometimes that frustrated people because they wanted cash back, or like if they paid for like if they bought a whole bunch of things and they bought like a bunch of stuff and they used trade credit and cash, they would want like specifically cash for like the one item they were returning and they couldn't, they would get like a percentage of trade credit, percentage of cash, blah blah blah. Anyway, this one time this lady didn't really understand that or didn't want to understand that and was being like just kept saying to me, no, I don't want the trade credit, I'll take cash. And I was like, I can't do that. So once again, get a manager, and manager says the same thing. And I just remember she got like really angry, and eventually she kind of gave up because like they weren't gonna give her any cash. Well, they gave her some cash, and they weren't gonna give her any more than that though. And so she eventually just took the trade credit and like handed it to some random other person, and then like left all angry. Yeah, oh god, there's so many stories here. But by the way, so the thing I got in the mail, I just wanted to mention the whole doxing thing a little bit because it's really frustrating and I haven't really explained it. So, long story short, this is a thing that I'll have to talk about more in depth sometime. It's still sort of ongoing a little bit, but it's not anything too crazy now. But long story short, what ended up happening, a family member of mine had passed away, and there was pretty much a loan that they had taken out on a thing, and somehow I ended up like I didn't get in trouble or anything, but somehow I ended up getting mixed up in like the court documents for it, and yeah, it's a whole like really annoying mess, and yeah, hang on, I'm just reading another thing real quick. Yeah, so it was pretty much a whole annoying mess. And long story short, they pretty much put way like a bunch of my personal info into this one thing, that they didn't censor correctly, and that was part of the whole issue with the doxing thing. Like I said, I'll have to explain it more in depth at some point, but also it's one of those things where I don't want to explain it too in depth because that could just do more harm than good. But anyway, that's that whole thing. But anyway, back to the work stories. Well, also the other thing that's annoying about that whole thing is they wrote a bunch of stuff that made it look like I was responsible for like debt, even though I'm not. So that was frustrating too. And I actually still am considering talking to a lawyer on my own end to see if there's some sort of action that I should take against the other side of that whole thing, because I think they did some illegal stuff to get my information. Um, but anyway, so back to work stories. So okay, I just have this one called the Cajun. So this is something that I only encountered like one time, but I remember one time when I was on the register when we were like about to close, this older guy came up with like a kind of Louisiana Cajun accent, and I remember some of my coworkers saying like, "Oh God, the Cajun is here," and I was like, well, who is the Cajun?" And apparently this dude would purposefully like he would wait until the store was like right about to close, and then he would check out and he would buy a ton of stuff, and he would just talk, he would just yap, and he would just yap yap yap. And I just remember the day that we were closed for like 20 minutes before this man finally shut up and left. um and I just remember he just, yeah, he just yapped, he just kept talking. It was all like nonsense too, and some of it annoyed me too because he started talking about stuff that kind of offended me. um Yeah, that was annoying. Not really too much to say there, but yeah, I just remember he started talking. Okay, so long story short, he started talking crap about the college I went to, and I really wanted to say something, but I was like, no, because then this man will just talk for another like 40 minutes. Um, oh, and then there's the moaning comic book guy. Yeah, so um, this one time I was ringing this guy up, and it was another situation of somebody who had stayed in the store right until we closed, and then came to check out, if I remember right. Or maybe it was in the middle of the day. I don't remember. Anyway, so we got like these comic book collectors in the store sometimes. I don't know if they were resellers or not, but in general, this store kind of had some issues with resellers. But so this guy comes up, and he's got just a cart full of comic books, which whatever, not a big deal. It's a bunch of like the some people would get annoyed with that because those cash outs would take forever. Just because each comic book was individually priced, all of the items in that store had a unique barcode, so you had to scan every single thing. You couldn't just scan one thing like 25 times or whatever. And comic books are thin, and they were really cheap at the store. So yeah, this dude. Anyway, I ring up his like 70 comics or whatever it is that he has, and I remember I told him the price, and it was like really cheap. It was like $10 or something ridiculous, and he just he just moans. He just he just like moaned and was like, "Oh, it's so good," and I was like, "Sir, it's like chill out maybe." Um, yeah, that was a pretty small story, but one that I was like, God, I can't believe people like this actually exist. Um, but yeah, that was one of those things. And just on a small tangent, yeah, this store had a reseller issue too. I mean, any store that sells any sort of thing at discounted prices, thrift stores, stores like this, Second and Charles, stuff like that. Any store that's going to sell stuff like that cheaper than you can sell it online is going to have issues with that. So we especially had issues with some resellers, and there were a couple of them that were like regulars that were pretty chill. They were like pretty nice, but sometimes they would still get annoying because they would just be there all day and they would get in the way of like some of the areas around the store. Um, thought I heard thought I heard somebody saying my name. Maybe not. Um, so they would do that kind of thing, and it was really annoying. But then also you would get like people that were not like the normal resellers. You would get some that were really rude. You would get some that would be in the store like open to close and would just buy just carts and carts and carts of stuff. Um, and so yeah, that always got kind of annoying. That's probably something to delve more into another time. But yeah, I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that anymore. um, honestly, in a lot of ways, like my new job, I I'm still a little bit hesitant about it because I've never worked in this type of position before, but I do think I'll like it more. One of the things too that I'm really looking forward to with it is like it'll be nice to work in an environment that is not necessarily like profit motivated, since I'm gonna be working for like a level of government. Sure enough, like money is still important when it comes to government stuff, but it's not like it's a business that's focused on profit or anything, which I think is nice. That's part of why I've always been so interested in like working for like NPR or something like that, which is not what I'm doing, but like nonetheless. Although I do find it kind of hilarious that soon, once I start that new job, my streams will be technically government funded, which is really funny to me, in my YouTube channel and stuff. But yeah, what's the next story that I've written down? Lady dumping stuff in our recycling. That one was a pretty short one. So pretty much there was like a back entrance to the store where the employee entrance was and stuff, and there's like trash bins and recycling bins and stuff. And every now and again, you would get people back there. A bunch of people don't know how to read, and so they would park back there and then get yelled at because, hey, this is employee parking. But I just remember this one time there was this lady kind of wandering around back there, and I told one of the managers, and one of the managers went to say something to her, and for some reason she had been like dumping her own crap in our recycling bins. Um, and then what is it? I have a similar story. Oh, There was another lady. So where I live, I've talked before about how there's been like this big influx of like rich people and stuff that have moved to the state that I live in. And there's a lot of very like entitled people that have popped up. And so I don't know for sure if this lady was actually like somebody who moved here recently or if she was just entitled in general. But this lady comes into the employee section, and for some reason, people always liked to use the word donate when they talked about selling stuff to us, even though it wasn't donating because we weren't like a Goodwill or anything. We're not a they. It's not a nonprofit. But they would be like, there would always be people that would be like, "Can we donate these to you? Like, we don't want to sell them. We want to donate them." Um, and so this one time, this lady comes up to like the back door of the store, and I'm trying to like throw stuff out, and she starts on the whole, "Oh, can we want to donate these?" And I was like, "Okay, you still have to go to the front of the store and wait in line and everything if you want to do that." And she didn't want to hear it. She wasn't like rude, but she just kind of refused to believe that I would not accept things in the back of the store. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that because if I do this for this lady, somehow this will get around and we will have a bunch of people trying to drop off their trash at the back door. Because as it was, people liked to use the store that I was working at as a dumping ground for stuff that they literally. Oh my god. Another EMP grenade. For stuff that they just didn't know how to get rid of. They would bring it to us and then we wouldn't buy it and then they would just want us to get. Why do I keep getting the knife? That is so annoying. It's the third time I've gotten that in this match. Yeah, it was annoying though. And then the last note that I have here. Last note that I have here is people bringing in their pets. That was the thing that people really liked to do, and technically it was against store policy, but nobody really seemed to enforce it because people who bring their pets in the stores are usually going to put up a fight about it for some reason. Which sorry if I sound so miserable on this stream, but good God, this job really did turn me into like a jaded retail employee to some extent. Yeah, people would bring in their pets all the time, and the thing was, like, technically, it was against company policy and stuff, but, like, we didn't sell groceries, so I don't think that there was, like, a health agency thing or anything that we could do about it. But yeah, so that was just annoying. Speaking of health stuff, also, good God, man, the roach infestation. I mentioned that on a few streams before. That was another reason why I really needed to get out of that job. I just kept seeing more and more roaches there. And eventually I remember actually kind of telling one of the managers, like, there was a roach literally in front of me as I was doing something. And I remember him kind of giving me a spiel about it and saying, like, oh, yeah, they're like German cockroaches too, so they're really hard to get rid of. And I was like, that doesn't help the situation because I do not want to bring those home. And also, I feel like that's probably a part of the reason why I ended up feeling kind of ill pretty often when I would get home from work, because like I didn't feel that way when I first started working there, but if there was like a growing roach infestation, that could be part of it. So yeah, trying to think if I have any other. There's something else that popped in my mind, but I don't remember what it was. Well, speaking of retail, my dad worked in retail for a pretty long time. He worked at a couple of different retail stores for probably the better part of like 25 years, 30 years, and man, I applaud him. I don't know how the heck he survived it for that long. Eventually he got into what he was really into, which was food related stuff. But yeah, I don't know how he worked in retail for so long, because I would have lost my mind working in retail for that long. And I mean, not to sound depressing, but like, who's to say that I might not have to return to it someday? But hopefully my current job will look good on my resume and everything, I think, and hopefully it will go well. So, yeah. Why is my cat freaking out? Chill out. You don't need to get the zoomies just because I'm talking to a microphone. Come on. I know you get the zoomies when you're not the center of attention. Chill out. That was a pretty good run for being distracted complaining about my job. Let's go again. Probably not going to stream for too much longer, though, because it's already been like an hour. It's not super late, but I do kind of, well, it's pretty late. It's 11:30. Do kind of want to go to bed and get some good sleep tonight and everything. I wanted to talk to you about what I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks while I am between my jobs. A handful of things. So for one, I kind of, when I knew that I was gonna have about 2 weeks between leaving old job and starting new job, I was trying to figure out like if there was anything that I wanted to do, and honestly, like, not really. I thought about trying to go take a trip somewhere or something like that or whatever, but the more I thought about it, I was like, man, I just need a break. Because I was thinking almost like when we had that big ice storm a few weeks ago and I was stuck inside for like a week and a half, I ended up feeling so relaxed despite the stress of that ice storm. It was so nice to just not have to do anything for almost 2 weeks. Um, so yeah, I probably will be just not doing that much. The only thing that I've planned is somebody saying something to me. Thought that I heard somebody saying something to me again, or possibly phone ringing or something. Um, yeah, the only plan that I have is I'm gonna go visit my granny, which will be nice. So visit her for a few days because I haven't seen her in quite a while. But aside from that, yeah, I don't really plan on leaving the house. Hopefully. And I want to work on a handful of things for the channel. I've got a couple of videos that I've been working on. If you guys have seen the video where I did the plant, what are you do? Why are you getting into the closet? Sorry, my cat has decided she wants to go into the closet, which currently has stuff blocking it, so I don't know why she's trying to do that. Whenever I do streams, it's not always, but I've noticed whenever I do streams, my cat gets really amped up. I don't know why. Now she's scratching a scratch pad. Maybe that will calm her down. Anyway, yeah, if you guys have seen the video I did about the skate betas or the video I did about games getting released on older consoles, those are both pretty long videos. Those took a while to edit and put together and everything. I've got one more, I think, video that's sort of long like that I'm working on that I still need to record some more stuff for, and I need to go through and edit and everything, so that might take a while. It's about Infamous, which should be cool though. I really like Infamous, and it actually has brought up some other video ideas and project ideas and stuff. But alongside that, I'd like to record some more playthroughs because actually the Wolf's Long Plays channel just hit 100 subscribers, so I want to make a video about that as well soon. That's really, really cool because I didn't really know if that channel would do anything or not, but it's cool that it hit 100 subscribers and I really didn't promote it or anything, so that's really neat. Heck, that channel might overtake this channel eventually, which maybe means, oh jeez, hang on, I gotta close my door. My cat decided to run out the room and make the dog angry. Yeah, sorry if you guys could hear my dog going Cerberus for a second there. Um, what was I saying? So, um, also, this channel, Wolfie, is very close to the 1,000 subscriber goal. Right now we're at 989 subscribers, so only 11 more until 1,000 subscribers. And I'm not really totally sure yet what I'm going to do for 1,000 subscribers. I know one thing for sure is I'm going to make a video explaining the Todd and Thomas socks that I wear whenever I do real life videos over my hands. Because there is actually some pretty interesting lore, at least I think, behind that. And then, yeah, I don't really know what else I'll do, but I'll probably think of some other cool stuff too, because that's been a really big goal for the channel ever since I started it. And then in terms of other stuff though, so I've been getting pretty into trying to mod some stuff lately, mod some games. Something that I don't know why, but I find it really interesting is trying to mod console exclusive games. Ever since I kind of started to find out that there are mods for some console games, like SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, I even played a mod of that on stream. Bunch of the Mario games have mods. Like I know I've seen Vinny Vinesauce do some Mario Kart Wii mods on his stream. Stuff like that I've just found to be really interesting. So I had managed to set up some emulators and dump some of my games and get all that set up, all legally, by the way. I know a bunch of people don't do that legally. I dumped all the games myself, dumped the BIOSes myself, everything. Um, I really think it could be cool to try to do some mods on console games, and I've been working on it a little bit, investigating a couple things, and I have a couple of cool things that I want to try. And honestly, I've actually been thinking about trying to make a GitHub page to just kind of document my processes. Not necessarily that I'm actually going to have any programs or anything that I build that are going to be useful for it, but I think GitHub sometimes is used just for like technical documentation. And I think that could be useful because I already have found some pretty interesting stuff that I've not really seen other people cover. I found out some cool stuff with Infamous 2, and I found out some maybe cool stuff with Dog's Life. And so I need to also mess around with some other games and stuff too. So that's something that I'm hoping to do, and I'll make videos on that eventually. It's one of those things where over the past like 2.5 years that I was working that job, and I was able to get all that stuff for so cheap. There's so many projects that I've like set up and then just not really finished or worked on. So I have a lot of stuff that I need to work on and finish, and like try to catch up on stuff before I go taking on any other huge tasks. Like just yesterday, I ended up I bought a so the store that I was working at sold as is consoles, and sometimes they were broken, sometimes they were just not able to be tested. I bought a couple of them, and almost most of the time it's usually either a really easy fix to get them working, or there's not even a fix needed. It's just that somebody didn't turn in enough parts for it to be tested, like they didn't turn in the power cable and the HDMI cord or video cable or whatever. So I got a PS4 Slim the other day, and I was messing around with that yesterday, and it works totally fine. Literally, I think the only thing that I can think of is that when I turned it on, it asked for the PS4 system software to be loaded onto it with USB, which I had not seen before. So the only things that come to mind with that are either somebody replaced the hard drive in it and then didn't know how to reinstall the system software, which is kind of weird. Also, the hard drive in it was 1 terabyte anyway, so that's a size that comes with the PS4 Slim. So I think that that's the original one. The only other thing I can think of is maybe it was updating. Maybe it was like in the process of updating, and whoever owned it previously, the power maybe went out or something while they were updating it, and it like corrupted the update, and so it needed to be redone, and they didn't know how to fix that. But yeah, I did that, and it works fine. So that's cool. And I bought a GameCube the other day that was as is, but I couldn't get it to work. It ended up having more issues than I thought. For one, the lid latch didn't work, but I did a little workaround for that where you solder it to kind of trick it into thinking it's always closed, which is not a perfect solution because multi-disc games won't work that way because you won't be able to swap discs. But I was messing around with it, and I got that part fixed only to find out that the disk drive itself seemed to be broken. The laser or the motor for the laser, something was not working. It would turn on, and I would see the laser turn on like it was trying to read the game, and then almost like it wasn't detecting anything. So I spent way too long trying to do that yesterday, and then also the whole thing with how upset my stomach got yesterday after eating that bad sandwich or whatever it was, I kind of gave up. But as one of my final purchases, my employee discount, I just bought a working GameCube, and with the discount between the working GameCube and the non-working GameCube, I still spent less than I would have otherwise on a just working GameCube. That being said, I haven't actually played around with the GameCube I bought that is supposedly in working order, so I don't know for sure if it actually works, but it should. Yeah, and I'm still gonna keep the broken GameCube as well, just because I've already fixed the hood, not the hood, the lid latch on it, so that's fine. And you can actually find GameCube disc drives on eBay relatively easily and for not that crazy prices. They're like, you can get one that's already been like recapped and like tested and everything for like $70, which is expensive, but given that I paid so little for the console as it is, and it's aside from having to take a ton of screws out, it seems like it's a relatively easy swap. I might just do that. And then also probably replace the lid latch with some other better setup too, so that way I could actually do multi disc games. If I get all that fixed, oh my god, that was kind of scary. Just got jump scared a little bit. Um, uh, if uh, if I can get all that working, I don't know. Maybe I would give one of the GameCubes to my girlfriend. Honestly, that's one of the cool things about having a girlfriend is like when you fix consoles, but you don't actually need another console, you can like give them to her. The only thing is though, since we live in different countries right now, that can make it kind of a pain. At least for older consoles, because like an American GameCube power adapter wouldn't work where she is. And similarly, like region locking with games, it's easier for newer consoles that are multi-voltage, multi-region. Um, yeah, like if I fixed up a PS3 or a PS4 and gave that to her, that would be fine. She'd be able to play games and everything. She just would have to get a new power cord and wouldn't be able to watch movies on it. Hang on, gotta go close my door again because my cat has returned. I'm back. Um, Another thing I've been doing lately that I wanted to mention that's been kind of cool. So I'd been playing a lot of Forza Motorsport on the original Xbox, and I've been enjoying it. But honestly, I was kind of like, I want to play a game with a story. Like, I just want to sit down and play a story game. Um, and I decided that I was going to don't throw up on my new pants. My cat looked like she was about to throw up on my brand new pants for a second there. I was gonna freak out. Um, yeah, I really need to put those away before she does do something like that. She already keeps laying on them and getting fur all over them. It's like I appreciate the thought, but it really doesn't need more fur. Um, but yeah, so I decided to play Battlefield 3. I was thinking about it and I was like, I own a bunch of the Battlefield games and I've never really played them, but I like first person shooters, so why not? Started playing Battlefield 3. I actually am playing that on my modded PS3 because my disc for it has a crack in the center, and it is not into the data region yet. But like the more the disc spins, the worse that crack is probably gonna get. So I was like, maybe I should just dump that game to my PS3 and then play it without the disc. So that's what I've been doing. It works fine, although Battlefield 3 really doesn't run that well on PS3. But it is kind of interesting timing given that part of the story of Battlefield 3 is about a conflict between the US and Iran. Um, I'm not going to get into real life stuff right now, but yeah, that I didn't really realize that until I started playing it. But yeah, I'd like to play through Battlefield 3. I'd also kind of like to play Battlefield 4. I remember playing part of the campaign for that when I was younger and never finishing it. Um, I guess it's Battlefield Bad Company 1 or no, Battlefield Bad Company 1. Never played that. I've played through the campaigns of Hardline, Bad Company 2, and some of the newer ones, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5. I think that's it. Um, yeah. So I'd like to maybe play some more Battlefield. Also, well, Steam Spring Sale is going on right now too, and one of the games that's on sale on there for really cheap that it actually seems to be going kind of viral is Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 one, is on sale for $6, which is like 90% off. So I actually bought that the other day.
and I might buy some more games too. Bought that, and I bought Modern Warfare 3, the old one, because I might try to play that with one of the custom fan made launchers. But yeah, I played a little bit of Modern Warfare 2019 because I really never like I've played through the campaign of that game, but I've never really played the multiplayer of it that much because I have it on PS5, but I'm always too cheap to buy PlayStation Plus. But on PC, you don't need PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold or anything like that. And so I played a little bit of the multiplayer, and I actually did really good. I remember playing it a little bit before. I really like it, so I'll have to play some more of that. But there's a bunch of stuff on sale that's pretty good on that Steam sale right now that I might have to check out. Especially now, like that I have a nice computer. I was thinking about it too, like about stuff to talk about related to my old job. I was trying to think of like what's the most useful thing that I bought with my discount on my old job, and I really think it's that Windows gaming computer I got because I got it for pretty cheap because it needed to be kind of cleaned up, but it really wasn't that crazy of a cleanup. And it's I mean it's older, but it still rocks, man. It's still got a nice graphics card, nice CPU, and everything. Like it still does its job. Um, and I got it for really cheap, and it's actually been really useful, like both to just play games on myself and also for the channel. I never really had like a Windows gaming computer before, so to have that has actually been really, really excellently useful. Um, Aside from that, I had bought a few cell phones at my old job that I used for a while because iMessage is kind of the easiest way for my girlfriend and I to keep in touch. But eventually, I just bought a new iPhone. Um, so that was always kind of cool. I mean, I bought a bunch of consoles and stuff. Those have been kind of nice to have. Uh, the other Another thing too that I think is going to be useful, but I haven't really played with that much, is actually the retro handheld thing that I knocked over earlier by accident that you guys might have heard me knock over. It's a what is it, RS40 Pro or something along those lines. They're pretty well known. We got one of those in not that long ago. It was really cheap as it was because the screen on it is like it's kind of damaged, but it's fine. Um, and it didn't have like a charger or anything with it. But I bought that and I got it for really cheap, and it has a ton of old games on it, and it can run a lot of stuff really well. It's a little bit like older games than I usually play, but it does have like N60. Like I mostly like 3D games. I'm not a huge fan of that many 2D games. Um, it's just kind of I think I grew up like around a lot of 3D games, so that's just kind of what I like. But it has a huge selection of games on it, and there are N64, PS1, Dreamcast, stuff like that. So there are a handful of 3D games on there, which is cool. I've found that it actually seems to be sort of best for like fighting games, at least for me. That's what I've been enjoying playing on it. Because fighting games are usually pretty simple, so I don't think that it requires like a ton of emulation power for those. And it has a bunch of fighting games on there, and they're also really good for like a handheld because fighting game matches are usually pretty short, and you don't really need to be paying attention to a story to be playing a fighting game. So I think that thing's going to be pretty useful in the future for like if I go on any trips or anything. But even just in general, like honestly, I've just like sat in bed playing it a few times, and it's great. It's really nice. Even for full price, if I had paid like the 80 or $90 or whatever that I think it costs full price, like it absolutely would have been worth it. Um, Anyway, though, I know I'm in the middle of a match, but I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there because I'm really tired, and I think I've said pretty much everything that I wanted to say on the stream. Um, yeah, thank you guys for watching. I can't believe that I'm finally done with that old job, but I am, and now I've got a cool new job lined up, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to my little 2 weeks break. Yeah, so keep an eye out. I've got a bunch of cool videos on the way, and I maybe will make a GitHub page to try to like keep track of trying to mod some games and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, and well, I should probably pull up OBS before I do my outro. Thanks for watching. I will see you in other stuff in the future. Have a nice night.